it's Mandy from Mandy Marie Art. It's time for another Copic Ink refill swatch video. In this video, I'm going to swatch my collection of yellow red inks from Copic. I happen to love and use several of the lighter color options in the yellow red series from Copic. So let's dig in. All right, first color is YR000, which is Silk. And Silk is this wonderful color, in my opinion, because I happen to love peach tones. It's a very stable color, so not a lot bleeding out, which for yellow red is really nice. It's just this lovely beigey orange color, no undertones peeking through, no staining on the paper, no real texture, just maybe a little bit there, but not a lot. Next is YR00, which is powder pink. And again, another stable peachy pink color. It's a little bit darker than Silk. It has a little bit of the darker orange hue along the edges, but no bleeding, staining on the paper, or texture. Next is YR01, which is Peach Puff. And Peach Puff is a little different from the previous two colors in that it does stain the paper a pinkish red color where you first drop the ink. And then there is a little bit more of beige that you can see along the edges, but not much. Mostly it's just that staining of the paper. There are no other real undertones or texture with this color. All right, next is YR02, which is light orange. And light orange stains the paper pink underneath, just like the last color. And there's some yellow undertones that are bleeding out along the edges, not much, but a little bit there. And then there is a bit of a deeper orange that's along the edges. So not too tacky in terms of texture, but lots of things happening with different undertones and colors that'll peek through with this one. Next is YR09, which is Chinese orange. And with Chinese orange, you're gonna see some deeper, darker orange hues along the edges. There's some yellow that bleeds out along the edges as well. And then there's that softer peachy orange there. So lots of things happening with this color as well. Next is YR14, which is Caramel. And this is just a nice, again, very soft yellow red. There's a little bit of the light beige that is kind of along the outer edge there, but there's no undertones, there's no staining of the paper, and no tackiness or texture happening there. Next is YR18, which is Sanguine, and this color has a lot of undertones bleeding out and some tonal things happening. So there is some pink staining of the paper underneath this orange. So you'll see kind of like a pinkish red hue to it. Lots of yellow bleeding out around the edges, and then some darker orange around the edges as well, and then that softer peachy orange throughout. So some interesting things happening with that color as well. Next is YR20, which is Yellowish shade. And this is a very nice stable color. It's more on the beigey side of the yellow orange, or excuse me, the yellow red. And so with the Silk and the kind of pinkish colors that we've covered early on, so the powder pink and the peach puff, they're a little different because there's more red in those three. With this one, there's more yellow. So it's very soft though. It's a stable color. For a lighter color, there's hardly any gumminess or texture or tackiness. And so that's really nice if you like lighter colors and like working with lighter colors. This is a great one to use. Next is YR21, which is Cream. And again, another stable color. There's just a tiny bit of red that peeks through. This again is more on the yellow side of the house. And so it's a deeper kind of yellowish color, but with just a touch of that pinkish red in there. Very stable, no staining on the paper. Just like I said, just a little bit of the undertones, and it's not tacky. There's no like real texture or any gumminess to this one here. All right, now we have YR24, which is Pale Sepia. And so again, more on the yellow side of the house, less of the red in here. No staining of the paper, no tackiness or gumminess or anything happening here either. So very stable color, no undertones, nothing bleeding out. It's just a very nice kind of honey sepia tone. It's really great. Next is YR27, which is Tuscan orange. Very terracotta feel, Tuscan desert, you know, that really lovely yellow orange. Not a lot happening in terms of undertones, so pretty stable color. A little bit darker, of course, with the initial drop of the ink, but no undertones, no staining of the paper. Just a tiny bit of texture can build up along where the darker color is here. Next is YR30, which is Macadamia Nut. And this one being a light color, it's super gummy, so really tacky, lots of texture with it, but it is a stable color. There are no colors bleeding out, it doesn't stain the paper, and it's just that really nice, soft yellow. Definitely reminds me of a macadamia nut. Then we have YR31, which is light reddish yellow. So more on the yellow spectrum again, but no undertones bleeding out, no texture, no gumminess, no staining of the paper. It's just a really stable color again, so it's really lovely and it's nice. Now we have YR61, which is spring orange, and we're back into the kind of pinkish reddish coloring that happens. So you can see here lots of pink on the undertone, so that's what's staining the paper. Then you have orange along the edges, very minimal beige in there, but for the most part, what you'll see when you use this color is that pink staining. Then we have YR65, which is Atoll, and this color, again, pink staining, slightly darker than spring orange, but not by much. Orange along the edges, a little bit of that beige in there, but lots of pink staining happening in the middle. And then the last color in this group is YR18, which is Mellow Peach. And this color is really unique. It's almost like a fluorescent, but it's not a part of their fluorescent line. But you can see here this orange is just like this really bright, I don't know if I can get this closer. It's a really bright yellowy or orangish neon. And so it's really hard to see on film, but very much a neon orange in there, but it's soft, it's very subtle. And then there's some yellow undertones that kind of peek through, tiny bit of red, but no staining on the paper. And there's just a tiny bit of texture, but not a lot around the edges. All right, one last look at my personal collection of yellow red inks from Copic. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about alcohol ink, go ahead and hit that subscribe button below and you'll be notified the second I upload a new video. So that's it from me. Let's meet up again.